And we are live. Happy Monday, everybody. I hope you had an amazing weekend. Welcome back to another episode of Mindset Monday, the live show where we help you improve your mindset, grow your business, and just have a great week. I am your host, Hayden Humphrey, uplifter and mindset coach. And I am just thrilled, so excited about my guest today, dear friend of mine, amazing coach, amazing human, um, all around amazing, awesome person, Gabby Wolson. Gabby, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I am literally so excited. I'm going to steal the words that you said earlier, which was, we always just have awesome conversations. So I feel like people should hear them. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh my gosh. I was thinking about, I was like planning out the people that I wanted to invite on the show. And you were one of the first people because I just feel like you just bring so much warmth and so much openness, and there's just so much like ease. It feels very comfortable and comforting to talk to you. So I appreciate, thank you for being that way. And yeah, thank you for bringing that energy here and sharing it with others.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. For the folks who have not yet had the opportunity to meet you or interact with you, could you share with us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I am the founder and coach of Realignment Coaching. I do kind of a blend of career coaching, career advising with personal development coaching. I am very, very driven by supporting my clients and getting really clear on their visions for their lives. Looking at what's holding them back from creating that, doing whatever healing's necessary, making a plan, making accountability, making it happen. That is like the highest level way I could umbrella kind of what I do. And just in addition to working with individuals, I also work with businesses. I do some human resources consulting, some training facilitation. I also teach dance. So like, I'm just down to do stuff.
Let's go. Multipreneur, woman
Yes.
after my own heart. Yeah, no, it's great. It's, I've really come to appreciate the joy and the opportunity in being self-employed and giving yourself permission to do lots of different things. I think it's in my nature. It sounds like it's in your nature as well. It keeps things very interesting. And I think it helps me do the things that I do better by giving myself multiple things to work on. So that's really cool. Gabby, the question that I like to kick off this show with, the question that I will also ask you, what is a mindset shift that you have created recently, and what impact has it had on your business?
Such a good question. One mindset shift that I have recently been practicing is the value of just slowing down. And it's funny because maybe this is just my own judgment of myself, I feel like it's kind of a basic answer, but I have love to tell a story really fast. So I, a few months ago, I went to like a yoga spiritual wellness retreat at the Kripalu Center, if anyone has heard of that, in Western Massachusetts. And it was really early in the morning. I had a day pass. I was so pumped for this day. I'd been like building up for weeks and months. And I walked in with this like energy of like, here I am, let's go. And I went to check in. And the woman at the front desk was like, welcome. And I was like, yeah, I'm here, let's go. And I was like, okay, we got to check in fast because, the meditation class starts in 15 minutes. And she was like, there's plenty of time to make it to the meditation class. And this moment has stuck with me for literally months because I'm not making anything wrong about my being. Like, that was awesome that I was that excited. But I was so almost taken aback by her being of that like slow pace. Like there's an abundance of time, there's an abundance of opportunity for connection. And I was like, I want what she's having. And literally, I spent that entire day in my day pass at my wellness retreat center, challenging myself, like catching myself anytime I wanted to like move fast or rush things or be concerned about when I was going to do something, or did I have all the things I needed? And I would catch myself, kind of call myself out, but not in a judgmental way, I guess, call myself in and say, how can I still be this level of responsibility, but with a kind of being to it? And that's been my challenge to myself the last few months. And the impact that it has had, particularly on my business, is just being more present, right? Because if I'm going slower, then I'm able to really connect with you, right? I'm not concerned about, am I taking the right notes in a client session, or thinking, oh my gosh, I have 4 minutes left, gotta wrap this up, gotta get my breakthrough in, right? It's just about being with someone. And so it's really supported my connection with my clients. It's also really supported, going back to what you're talking about with the multipreneur thing, my intentionality of how I'm spending my time. Like I love to be a hustler, and I love to be, a workaholic a little bit. And how can I be that and still have this just gentle ease in my life? And I'm noticing that because I'm creating space for ease, I'm saying yes to things that I actually want. And I'm not jumping on opportunities that aren't as exciting, or even opportunities that don't allow me to have that ease.
Man, well, thank you for sharing that. I resonate deeply with everything that you just shared. And I think that is such an important topic. It's really interesting, actually, because it's a consistent conversation on this show. Last week I had Tujer Lee, if you know him, and we had a very similar conversation around slowing down, because it's so important. It's so vital, because I think that with the day and age we live in, with the culture that we live in a culture of rushing. We live in a culture of not enough time. We live in a culture of scarcity. And so in some ways, it's sort of a radical act, and a courageous act, to be willing to step out of that narrative, to be willing to step out of that hurried energy. I definitely, for myself, have come to recognize more from a more visceral perspective when I'm rushing, like noticing when I'm rushing. And I notice, interesting thing is, I notice I make more mistakes. I'm more clumsy. I'll smash my hand in the door, or I'll stub a toe, or I'll knock something over. Totally, like literally, it's like it's like that kind of feedback of like, okay, I'm like, what's happening? Because clearly something is causing me to feel like I need to be going faster. And I think with rushing, the thing that came up for me as you were talking was, I think that it feels like rushing is a very sort of fear-driven energy. Like it's this not enough, got to go faster, there's not enough time, kind of thing. And what's so fascinating, the thing that I really want to call out, because I think it's so important, is like the last thing that you said around you slowing down has created an opportunity for you to choose differently into projects, and to choose differently into clients, to choose differently into opportunities. And it's interesting with rushing, when we're unwilling or unable to slow down, it's almost like we keep ourselves stuck in that cycle. We keep ourselves stuck in this loop, this fear-based, scarcity-based, fear-based sort of cycle, where we're saying there's not enough time, there's not going to be enough resources, there's not going to be enough money, so I just have to say yes. I have to say yes, I have to say yes, I have to say yes, even if I don't like it, even if it doesn't feel aligned, like I just got to say yes to it. And saying yes to those sort of unaligned, lower level opportunities keeps you stuck here. But as soon as you start to slow down and you're willing to be much more intentional about your yeses and your nos, you start to, I think, raise your energetic threshold of what you're willing to take. And in response, you start to bring in and call in more of those opportunities, more of those aligned opportunities.
Absolutely.
But you got to be willing to slow down and let go.
Yes, it's so good. One thing I know, because we talk about, in our coaching training so much, is that when we're rushing, right, what we'll typically do is make an automatic choice, right? And that is most likely a fear-based, exactly what you were talking about, a fear-based choice. So in your example, right, the fear-based choice might be, I have to say yes to this opportunity because I need money, or I need to grow my business, or, I never know, whatever story is, I never know when the next opportunity is going to come along, right? So these might be automatic choices, automatic responses that come from the stories that we have and primarily the fears that we have. Right. And it doesn't even have to be these big picture things. It can literally be like, what food do I reach for when I'm hungry? But when we're rushing, we don't create the space to stop and ask ourselves, what's actually aligned with my vision for my life? And the funny thing is, like, the choice might actually still be the same, right? It's not about the thing. Like, you can still make the exact same choice, and that is fine. But it's actually about empowering yourself to say, I'm not just going to do the automatic thing. I'm not just going to do the fear-based thing, but I'm actually going to make a decision myself because I'm worth it, right? Because I'm clear on my vision, and there's only an opportunity to ask yourself that question if you're actually slowing down.
It's, part of what I hear in your share is it provides an opportunity to choose differently and to create a greater level of intention and potency and impact with the choices that you're making. Because I agree with you. It's like this conversation around there's a decision to be made. The question is, where do you want to choose from? How do you want to choose? How do you want to make said decision? And it could be the exact same decision in a way, but the energy of it is totally different. And I forget where I read this, but it might have been. Have you read Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh? So one of the things I believe it's from that book that he talks about is he talks about the idea that there's only two emotions, fear and love.
Yes.
And everything else is just a manifestation or a form of those two things. And I think what I've come to recognize over time is that I can just trust that decisions made from fear in any way, shape, or form, decisions made from fear will not work out in the long run. They will not be sustainable. They will not bring me what I want. So even if it seems like it's convenient, even if it seems like it's the logical thing to make the fear-based decision, continuing to come back to this place of, I trust that in the long term, it doesn't make sense for me to do that. And it makes much more sense for me to look at, how can I choose from love? What is the loving decision? What is the loving choice that I can make here? And it's challenging because sometimes that might mean that you're letting go of a relationship. Sometimes that might mean that you're saying no to a client. Sometimes that might mean that you are stopping a project or going back and saying to a commitment, actually, this isn't aligned for me anymore. And I'm not going to be able to take this on, whatever it is. But it's just that I've really definitely come to recognize and appreciate the value of saying, if it's not a loving decision, then it's probably not going to work out. But really the only way you can acknowledge and truly see whether or not it's loving is to slow down and to actually look at, how are you showing up? Where are you choosing from?
Oh, I love that so much, and I'm definitely going to steal that. And what came up for me when you were talking was that the baseline of a loving decision, it's really just grounded in first loving yourself, right? Loving yourself enough to make a loving decision, right? Like, one of the things I specialize in my business is people who are miserable in their jobs, know they want to do something else, and have no idea what the something else is, right? So I have a whole program where we explore careers that they've never thought of before. And I have to give it to my clients. It is a really, really challenging conversation to be in, because it requires them to quiet the voices of what the obvious next step is, what the easy next step is, what society thinks they should do, what their boss thinks they should do, what their friends and family thinks they should do. And all of that gets to be quieted in order for them to actually think outside the box of like, oh my gosh, I've never thought of being a librarian. I've never thought of being a music producer, whatever it is. And the only way to really be in not only that challenging conversation, but then actually even acting on it and putting yourself out there to a totally new career is to love yourself enough and believe that my vision, my happiness, my whatever is worth being really uncomfortable for this amount of time.
Yeah. Yes, in so many ways. Yes, all of the ways. Yes, Gabby. My gosh, it's so fascinating, and it's so interesting how much of this conversation around all things, not only fulfillment and satisfaction in life, but also from a business perspective, your ability to create results, your ability to not burn yourself out, to build something that's sustainable, to be able to market in a way that feels good to you, to be able to sell and work with people in a way that feels good to you and is actually in integrity, to be able to sustain yourself, to be able to create the kind of wealth that you want in your life. All of it comes back to what is the root relationship that you have with yourself? How do you feel about yourself? What are the core narratives that you are telling and saying about yourself? And are you actively practicing being in a conversation of unconditional love with self?
Yeah.
Because if that's not there, it makes everything else extraordinarily challenging. And I love so much, what you were saying about quieting the voices. So much of how I talk about this in my work is the idea of getting clear on the scripts that we're living in and breaking up with the script. Because to me, that's what the script is. It's these conditioned stories, it's these outside perspectives, it's these voices, these external voices of culture, of community, of teachers, of parents, of family, of siblings, of whatever it is. But it's not yours. It's not your voice. But so often, I think we don't yet have the acuity or like the acute sense of what voice is ours and what voice is others. So often we just end up choosing based on what other people are telling us, what we think we should be doing, what we're supposed to be doing, what it makes the most sense to do, whatever it is. But how radical and how cool to be in a conversation around, if I quiet those external voices and I start to really spend time with and connect with this voice that is my own. What does that sound like? What does that mean? What is it telling me? And to me, that's really the entire game. That's the whole game. It's the whole reason that we're here. It's the whole reason I do the work that I do. Sounds like very much so the reason that you do the work that you do is supporting people in coming to understand, what does that voice sound like? What do they sound like? And then how can we start to build a life that is a direct reflection and expression of that voice? Because to me, that's satisfaction. That's the ultimate fulfillment. That's the ultimate freedom. Because you're living for yourself and you're creating a life that is uniquely and perfectly designed for you.
I have a dear colleague that we were a few years ago in this exact kind of conversation, and she said, "Stop shoulding yourself." And I'm obsessed with it and steal that all the time now. Yep. Stop shoulding yourself.
1,000%. Yeah. And it's, it's so interesting because, and I don't know if you find this to be true or found this to be true for yourself, but it can be really challenging in the beginning because it shoulds, I think, can sometimes feel like the responsible thing, or we're led to believe that like the shoulds are, this is responsible. If you're not doing the thing that you think that you should be doing, then you're being irresponsible, you're being illogical, whatever it is. But to me, so much of should is about this idea of obligation. There's some story not generated from within yourself. There's some story externally that you are meant to or supposed to be operating inside of. But often that story is created by somebody else, created by culture, and it's not aligned with, it's not a reflection of who you actually are. Might there be elements in that story that are interesting and helpful and valuable? Absolutely. But you don't have to take it part and parcel. You can simply look at like, what is it from this that really feels good to me, that I like? And then how can I look at where I want to go based on that, so that I get all the things that I want, and so that I'm operating in accordance with my authentic voice and my authentic sense of self.
Just to bring it a little bit full circle back to where we actually, like where we started is, I feel as if the slowing down is also, right, we're getting so matrixed here, but like the slowing down in and of itself is also a different way to show up than society tells us, right? Like we are, at least here in America, at least here in the Northeast, like we are people who move fast, we rush. If we're entrepreneurs, we're supposed to grind, 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 grind. We are supposed to care about how much money can I make, and so even just the choice of being that Zen girl at the reception desk, even that is defying a lot of what society tells us of how to show up. And what's interesting is what we're talking about here is that, when we slow down, it actually supports our business, which is completely the opposite of, I feel, a lot of the messages that we get from society.
1,000%. I love that saying of like, nature doesn't rush and yet everything gets done. It's radical. It's a radical idea. And I think that it takes time. It takes courage. It takes a willingness to leap. I think it requires a leap of faith to say, this feels right to me, even if there are parts of my brain that are telling me this doesn't make sense, this is illogical. But there's a part of you that feels like, at least for me, there's a part of me that feels like, and now knows because I'm living it, how much better it is in every way, how much better it is. Because not only am I creating results, not only am I getting the things that I want, the material things that I want in clients and freedom and projects and opportunities and money and all that kind of stuff, but my ability to enjoy all of it, my ability to show up and enjoy the process of creation and not just the very momentary satisfaction of getting the thing, has completely changed. So it gets to be a both and. You get to both enjoy the process, enjoy your life on a day-to-day basis, and also create the results that you want, have the friends that you want, have the clients that you want. But you got to be willing to be radical. You got to be willing to slow down.
When I first started working with a coach myself a billion years ago, one of my projects was called the Getting Off the Couch Project. And I am, in addition to being a workaholic, I'm a TV addict. I can talk TV with anyone, like call me. But I loved to be on my couch. And there was this huge cognitive dissonance between, I just want to relax, I just want to enjoy my TV, versus at the same time, like, I'm not building what I actually want to build, right? And so I was trapped in this belief that like I needed to produce. So either I was hiding from producing and feeling guilty I wasn't, or I was just rushing and not loving my life, right? So I was stuck on this spectrum. And when I did the work of, as silly as it sounds, like what is actually keeping me on that couch watching that television? What am I actually afraid of? Deep down inside, I mean, if you would have asked me, what are you afraid of getting off the couch? I would have been like, absolutely nothing. I'm used to all the cockroaches in my apartment at this point. But what am I actually afraid of and avoiding? But even more than that, again, what's my vision? And one of the things I realized was that I was avoiding cleaning my apartment because it felt like chaos. But as part of my vision, if my apartment was cleaner, my rest would actually be more restful. And so I took myself out of this spectrum of like being in action or absolutely not, like I'm just sitting. And really, like, again, when I tell you that, like, with my clients, my number one thing is, what's your vision? What's your vision? What's your vision? Because every little decision that you make, from should I sit in this room or this room, to where should I live in this world, all that's your North Star. It's all guided by that. And when we are being led by your vision, we're not in shoulds, and probably we're not rushing.
1,000%. And I really love that conversation around like intentionality when it comes to making decisions, and how important it is to have a vision, to be clear on your vision, because it's like either you are perpetuating the conditioned stories that you picked up as a child that are probably not super empowered, and again, are probably other people's voices, or you are actively building towards what you most want. You're actively building towards a life that feels incredibly authentic and aligned and satisfied. But you have to be willing to sit down. And I love that. Thanks for sharing that example. Like being willing to sit down and to understand. This is so much of what I talk about in mindset work. Sit down and understand, what are the stories? What are the traps, maybe? What are the patterns that you're operating inside of from a belief and from a thought perspective? And it's not linear. It's not going to be a direct 1 to 2, A to Z, A to B to C kind of thing. But in doing that work, in being willing to sit down, slow down, pay more attention to what you're thinking, how you're making decisions, you start to bring more awareness. It starts to become more clear. It starts to become more lit up and illuminated. And when you see the contraption, when you see the instructions, when you see the scripts, you can then be in a conversation around, do I like this? Do I like making decisions in this way? Do I like living in this way? Yeah. And if not, you then have the opportunity and the power to say, I'm going to practice something else because I don't want to do this anymore.
I love that. Oh, this is so fun.
My gosh, we could go on forever.
Literally, we could.
Yeah. Well, we will absolutely have to have you back, Gabby. For the folks who haven't heard of you, who haven't connected with you yet, how can people find you? How can they work with you?
So the best way is to check out my website, which is just realignmentcoaching.com. It's got some funky spelling, but the great news is that it's right there under my name. I'm also on, all the classic socials. So find me on Insta, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. Do people still say Facebook?
Facebook. Yeah. If you enjoyed this show and you want to go deeper with mindset and really truly becoming the creator of your own life, I encourage you to subscribe to my LinkedIn newsletter, Unscript Your Life. Every week I share tips, tricks, strategies, stories to help you break out of the scripts, the thought patterns keeping you stuck, and get more of what you want. You can find the link to subscribe to that on my profile or in the comment section of this live stream. Gabby, any final thoughts, comments, words of wisdom? I am so in love with where this conversation went, and I had no idea where it was going to start.
start. So I feel like I need to like process a little bit. But actually, one thing that I would say is that's my favorite thing is like follow a train of thought, go into the weird places, because that's where your truth lies.
Amazing. Nothing else that needs to be said. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And Gabby, thank you so much for being here. You know, like I said, I knew that this was going to be a really awesome, valuable, enjoyable conversation, and it absolutely was. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your brilliance. Thank you to everyone who's been watching today. And if you are watching the recording of this, I hope y'all have an amazing rest of your Monday, an amazing rest of your week. And I will see you back here, same time, same place next week. Bye, everybody.